This video is brought to you by Wren. What's up guys, Michael here. If you're any brand of cinephile, you've probably heard about the very weird French movie that's taken the film world by storm. That's right, Titane. Most widely known for featuring sexual acts with cars that, if shown here, might make YouTube spontaneously combust. The film's director, Julia Ducournau, won the uber-prestigious Palme d'Or at Cannes, and her work has scandalized the internet because, TLDR, sex with cars. And since its very recent release on VOD, it's set to horrify and delight anyone willing to fork over a few bucks to watch it. But when you look beyond the kinks, is the film actually smart? Let's find out in this Wisecrack edition on Titane, Deep or Dumb. And spoilers ahead for an unlook-awayable film that, if you can stomach, you should run out and see in theaters, or at least catch on VOD from the comfort of your blanket fort. But before we dive in, I want to tell you about this video sponsor, Wren. If you've looked at the news lately, or even just at your local weather report, chances are that climate change is on your mind. And with all of the dire threats facing our planet, it's easy to feel helpless and stressed out. But Wren can help you transform your concern for the climate into tangible action. First, you take their quick and easy quiz to calculate the exact size of your carbon footprint. From there, Wren suggests exactly how invested you can become in their impactful climate initiatives so you can offset your negative impact on the planet. As someone that lives in California, I was especially impressed with Wren's biochar project, which removes dead trees from redwood forests in high fire risk areas. They turn these trees into biochar, a stable form of carbon that lasts for thousands of years. And while I'm extra pumped about Wren's projects that are local to me, their work resonates around the world. There's their mineral weathering project in Scotland, for instance, which turns atmospheric carbon into solid rock, all using accelerated natural geological processes. To get started with Wren, all you have to do is answer a few questions about your lifestyle, like what's in your diet, how often you travel, and whether or not you personally identify with any of the villains from Captain Planet. Okay, not that one. While a zero carbon lifestyle is impossible, Wren can help you offset what's left over. Once you sign up to make a monthly contribution that will be used to offset your carbon footprint, you'll receive monthly updates from the projects you support, so you will actually see the impact that you are making. Wren is pledged to plant 10 extra trees for the first 100 people who sign up using our referral link. So go to www.wren.co/start/wisecrack to join us in saving the rainforest and fighting the climate crisis. That's wren.co/start/wisecrack. And now, back to the show. Now, Ducournau has earned a reputation for her unique brand of body horror. One of her short films features an adolescent girl whose skin starts shedding, while her featured debut depicts a young vegetarian transforming into a cannibal. So the natural starting point for any conversation about her latest work seems to be body horror. Now, Ducournau didn't invent body horror. This specific subgenre has a storied history of making people puke in movie theaters as bodies explode, organs get eaten, and so on, or so I've heard, because if you know me, you know I don't like spooky things. Body horror is pretty much categorically shocking. But in our opinion, it's at its best when the horrifically gross body stuff is functioning on a deeper level.
Long live the new flesh.
That is, when it's a metaphor. Take David Cronenberg's classic The Fly, in which a scientist accidentally merges genes with a fly and slowly turns into a giant, fugly insect. The grossness is beyond debate, and not just if you're partial to the spooky parts of life. But it's more than shock value. The scientist's transformation could be seen as a metaphor for the way his disgusted girlfriend feels about him. It's about starting to find the person you love to be kind of gross and abhorrent. That is to say, it's pretty deep. Titane's unique brand of body horror kicks off with a car crash that leaves the protagonist, Alexia, with a titanium plate in her child-sized head. And of course, viewers get to witness the surgery taking place on a child's open skull. Here, Alexia's human body merges with the material, specifically titanium. The coldness of being part metal functions metaphorically to explain grown-up Alexia's lack of humanity. This allows her to act like a psychopathic killer and to want to cars. A neglectful childhood has created an adult who prefers the cold touch of steel over the warmth of flesh-bound humanity. Then there's her inevitable post-hanky-panky with car pregnancy. You heard that right, she f***ed a car and the car gets her pregnant. She clearly never heard of car condoms, which are actually a thing. There's a storied tradition in horror films, like Rosemary's Baby and The Brood, of depicting pregnancy as the ultimate, well, horror. Pregnancy becomes a metaphor for women not having autonomy or control over their bodies, whether it's because of abortion bans or just the straight-up dangers and pains of childbirth. We see some of this in Titane, when an on-the-lam Alexia tries to pose as firefighter Vincent's missing son. She increasingly struggles to control her body, to hide her obvious pregnancy and her breast in a way that personally made me squirm so hard I almost had an aneurysm. But Titane goes beyond the well-worn narrative, where pregnancy is simply a gory embodiment of women's lack of social and political capital. There's also Vincent, who compulsively injects steroids in scenes that again made me nearly crawl out of my seat in search of more wholesome content. Oh, that's better. Anyway, both Alexia and Vincent's bodies grow increasingly grotesque over the course of the film. Alexia's itchy body leaks motor fluid. Vincent's muscles strain and his butt gets more bruised. But the strange thing here is this: the more grotesque their bodies become, the more human they become, as their genuine shared emotional bond deepens. Ducournau has said that her work is primarily about embracing the total grossness of occupying a human body, with all of its smells and hairs and other yuck factors. As in her other films, she depicts a more nuanced version of body horror than your typical fare. Grotesqueness, she seems to declare, is fundamentally human. And that's not only okay, it's part of what makes us lovable. Now, I'm tempted to make fart noises with my armpits, but instead, I'll just declare this aspect of Titane decidedly deep. Before we move on, another spoiler alert. The next two sections will reveal something about the final scene of the movie, so get off your roided butt and go watch it. Anyway, the next lens to view Titane through is the complexities of gender roles. See, Ducournau tapped acting newcomer Agathe Roussel specifically because of her androgynous appearance. This makes sense, as Alexia spends most of the film posing as a boy. When we first meet Alexia, she's erotic dancing at a car show for the ogling eyes of predatory men. This is fitting for a woman who, yes, we hear you, has sex with cars. In this scene, Alexia is heavily objectified, essentially treated like she's as inhuman as the literal cars that she's dancing on. This suggests, not unlike plenty of feminist film scholars have long been saying, that having your body viewed through the male gaze can be highly dehumanizing. But over the course of the film, Alexia becomes increasingly androgynous as she impersonates a missing boy. In the process, she also starts to become more human, and actually forms a caring relationship with her quote-unquote father, Vincent. Abandoning the classic performative erotic femininity that made her such a hit at the car shows then, it makes Alexia explicitly more human. In a similar vein, Vincent injects himself with steroids as he clings to the vestiges of his youthful, potent masculinity. He craves strength and enjoys wielding power over those around him, and yet, he, like the other firefighters, seems happiest when dancing, often in pretty homoerotic scenes always devoid of any women. Surrendering his pursuit of classic masculinity, even for just a moment, actually lets him live life more fully. It's fitting then that the film ends with Vincent cradling Alexia's newborn baby like you might expect a mother to. Ducournau is showing the toxicity of conforming to both stereotypical femininity and stereotypical masculinity. In doing so, she seems to advocate for embracing all aspects of yourself, regardless of so-called gender affiliations, in order to live a more full, meaningful life. Again, I'm gonna go with pretty deep. Before we get into the third point, a third spoiler alert for all you easily distracted monsters. Go support this film before you watch on. The final lens for viewing this film is through the context of chosen family. You see, Alexia's birth parents are portrayed as cold and unfeeling. In fact, her father's impatience with Alexia causes the very car crash that lands her with a metal plate in her head. Rather than replicate this dynamic, Alexia chooses to detach from people, and as a grown woman, can only experience love or feel passion for cars. Yes, damn it, we get it. She has sex with cars. But when Alexia assumes the role of Vincent's son, she re-enters traditional familial ties. There's a major twist though. Pretending to be Vincent's son allows Alexia to finally forge an authentic human connection. That is, lying about who she is and pretending to be a part of a family lets her learn to actually be human. Meanwhile, Vincent's been mourning his missing son for years. That loss detaches him from the world, and even from his firefighter bros who would gladly fill that emotional void. At first, Vincent needs to believe that Alexia is his actual son to love her. But over time, as he starts to genuinely care for her, he also stops caring about her true identity. Through learning to love Alexia, Vincent realizes that blood isn't the deepest tie. This all culminates in the birth of Alexia's car baby, a super not safe for work scene. Vincent instantly accepts the baby as his own, loving and cradling it despite it not being genetically his. He seems to have given up his fixation on blood ties. In this way, and quite ironically, the film's fake family is actually the one that's capable of being nurturing and loving. We think the savvy Ducournau has a lot to say here. She's trying to disconnect love from specific identities like mother, father, or son. In this way, she's challenging us to rethink how much we equate love with certain social, romantic, and familial structures. This, honestly, is really cool, and a rare thing to see on the big screen, especially because Hollywood tends to put traditional relationships on a pedestal. So, thrice I say, Titane is deep. And that just about covers it. Titane ultimately is a lot more than merely shocking. It genuinely seems to have a lot to say about bodies, gender, and families. Ducournau, for her part, has claimed that the film is primarily a story about love. For her, all the salaciously gory details are merely a symbolic means for telling that story. And when you dig deeper, this makes a lot of sense. But what do you guys think? Is there more to Titane than a roll in the hay with an automobile, or are we trying to dress a minivan up as a Suburban? Let us know in the comments. Big thanks to our patrons for all your support, and don't forget to check out our podcast. Hit that subscribe button like you're shoving a hairpin into the ear of an unwanted suitor, and don't forget to ring that bell. And as always, thanks for watching. Later.